Meghan Markle just got publicly destroyed by one of her most devoted fans, and sources say she is absolutely melting down. Stassi Schroeder, reality television powerhouse and former Meghan superfan, just unleashed a scorched earth takedown that has left the Duchess scrambling. In a podcast moment that's already gone viral, Stassi unfollowed Meghan in real time, declared herself a former toxic fan turned toxic hater, and exposed a shocking pattern of betrayal that reveals exactly who Meghan Markle really is. This wasn't a polite breakup. This was a full-blown public execution, and what Stassi revealed is sending shockwaves through Hollywood and royal circles alike. Here's what went down. For years, Stassi defended Meghan when nobody else would. She toured the entire country with Meghan's face plastered on stage every single night. She recruited people to the fan base. She made videos. She fought battles online. She was ride or die for the Duchess. And in return, Meghan's team reached out 5 months ago, promising to send her a PR package from the lifestyle brand. Stassi waited and waited and waited, checking her doorstep like a fool, asking herself every morning if today would finally be the day. The package never came. She'd been baited, strung along, and then completely ghosted. But here's where the story takes a truly twisted turn. While Stassi was being ignored and humiliated, Meghan sent those exact same PR boxes to podcasters Claudia and Jackie Oshry, two women who have openly criticized and questioned her. Let that sink in. The critics got rewarded. The superfan got ditched. Industry insiders are calling it the most deranged PR strategy they've ever witnessed, and speculation is swirling that this is deliberate. Meghan allegedly believes she can control the narrative by showering her haters with gifts while assuming loyal fans will stick around no matter how badly they're treated. Stassi just proved that theory catastrophically wrong. The fallout is spreading like wildfire. Trump aide May Mailman just weaponized Meghan's name on a massive New York Times podcast, coining the term Meghan Markle syndrome to describe manufactured victimhood and woke grievance culture. Conservative commentators are running with it, turning the Duchess into a political punching bag. Meanwhile, Meghan's posting illegible calligraphy that critics are shredding as narcissistic nonsense, desperately hawking a product line that's already been declared dead on arrival. Palace sources claim she's behind every PR disaster, destroying Harry's reconciliation efforts with King Charles, sabotaging his family relationships because peace would obliterate her victim narrative. And now, with Stassi's very public defection, the cracks are turning into chasms. Royal insiders whisper that Meghan's reaction behind closed doors has been unhinged. She's losing political allies, entertainment influencers, and the fans who once defended her blindly. The woman who thought she could manipulate her way to the top is watching it all crumble. And if Stassi's revelation is just the beginning, the truth about Meghan Markle might be far darker than anyone imagined. Let's rewind and understand just how deep this betrayal actually goes. Because Stassi Schroeder wasn't just some casual fan who occasionally liked a post or left a nice comment. This woman was Meghan Markle's most vocal, most public, most ride-or-die defender in the entire entertainment industry. We're talking about someone who put her own reputation on the line repeatedly, who stood in the firing line when the entire world was turning against Meghan, who literally made the Duchess part of her brand identity. The level of devotion was almost cult-like, and Meghan knew it. Stassi traveled across the entire country on tour, and every single night her team would set up a giant picture of Meghan Markle's face on stage. Every single night. Think about that commitment. Think about the planning, the effort, the deliberate choice to make Meghan a centerpiece of her live shows. Stassi wasn't quietly supporting from the sidelines. She was publicly, loudly, unapologetically Team Meghan when most of Hollywood was running in the opposite direction. She recruited people to the cause, convinced skeptics to give Meghan a chance, and used her massive platform to defend every controversy, every scandal, every accusation. When Meghan was getting dragged for the Oprah interview, Stassi defended her. When the racism allegations were swirling, Stassi stood firm. When royal commentators were tearing apart her behavior, Stassi pushed back. She filmed videos. She commented on posts. She engaged in arguments online. She literally had her own PR team reach out to Meghan's camp to express support and build a connection. This wasn't performative. This was genuine fandom bordering on obsession, and everyone in entertainment circles knew Stassi was Meghan's #1 fan. So when Meghan's team reached out 5 months ago to say a PR package was coming, Stassi was over the moon. This felt like validation, like recognition, like finally being seen by the woman she'd championed so fiercely. She told her co-host about it. She waited eagerly. And here's the truly heartbreaking part. She would wake up every morning and wonder if today was the day the package would arrive. She described it as sad, pathetic almost. How excited she was. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Nothing came. Meanwhile, she watched as other influencers started posting about receiving their packages. People who hadn't defended Meghan, people who hadn't toured with her face on stage, people who'd actually criticized her. And then came the final slap. Claudia and Jackie Oshry, Podcasters who openly questioned Meghan's behavior and motives got their boxes. Stassi saw it on their Instagram stories. The betrayal was complete. She'd been used, manipulated, and discarded while critics were being courted. The realization hit like a freight train, and that's when everything changed. The most loyal fan Meghan ever had was about to become her most vocal enemy, and the Duchess had no one to blame but herself. The PR box scandal gets even more twisted when you understand exactly who Meghan chose to reward instead of Stassi. Claudia and Jackie Oshry run one of the biggest celebrity gossip podcasts in America, The Daily Toast, and they have never been shy about questioning Meghan's motives, dissecting her behavior, and calling out inconsistencies in her public narrative. These are not fans. These are commentators who have openly wondered whether Meghan is manipulative, whether her victim story holds water, whether she's been truthful about the royal family drama, and yet they got the PR boxes that Stassi was promised. Royal watchers are absolutely baffled by this strategy. Insiders claim Meghan believes she can neutralize critics by showering them with attention and gifts, essentially buying their silence or softening their coverage. It's the ultimate control freak move, an attempt to manipulate the narrative by converting haters into allies while assuming devoted fans will stay loyal no matter how badly they're treated. But the strategy reveals something deeply disturbing about Meghan's psychology. She doesn't value genuine support, she only values leverage and control. When Stassi discovered that Claudia and Jackie had received their packages, she didn't just feel hurt, she felt humiliated. On the podcast, she described the moment as a gut punch, a revelation that everything she thought she knew about Meghan was a lie. Her co-host pointed out the obvious. Stassi had literally been Meghan's most visible supporter, and yet critics got preferential treatment. The message was unmistakable. Loyalty means absolutely nothing to Meghan Markle. Only strategic value matters. Stassi's reaction was volcanic. She unfollowed Meghan live during the podcast recording, announcing to thousands of listeners that she was done, finished, never speaking about her again. She called herself a toxic fan turned toxic hater, and the internet absolutely exploded. Comments poured in from other former supporters who'd experienced similar treatment, people who'd defended Meghan only to be ignored, dismissed, or ghosted. A pattern was emerging, and it wasn't pretty. Meghan apparently has a history of using people and then discarding them the moment they're no longer useful. But here's where the speculation gets really interesting. Some royal commentators believe Meghan deliberately avoids rewarding loyal fans because she doesn't want to be associated with anyone who might become a liability. Stassi was caught up in a 2020 cancel culture controversy. Nothing major, but enough to make her radioactive in certain circles. Insiders whisper that Meghan refuses to publicly align herself with anyone who's been touched by scandal, even minor ones, because she's obsessed with controlling her image and protecting her brand. The irony is staggering. Meghan herself has been cancelled for lying about racism in the royal family, for smearing Kate Middleton and King Charles, for weaponizing false victimhood narratives. Yet she won't touch anyone else who's been remotely controversial. So Stassi got abandoned while critics got courted. The fans who sacrificed their own reputations defending Meghan got nothing. And now the entire entertainment industry is watching as the most devoted supporter publicly declares war. Industry sources say Meghan is panicking behind closed doors, realizing too late that her twisted PR strategy has backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Just when you thought the Meghan Markle pile-on couldn't get any worse, the political world decided to join the party. May Mailman, a rising star in the Trump administration and top aide to Stephen Miller, just delivered an absolutely devastating blow during an appearance on a major New York Times podcast. She didn't just criticize Meghan, she turned her into a diagnosis, coining the term Meghan Markle syndrome to describe the toxic culture of manufactured victimhood that's allegedly destroying Western civilization. And the phrase is spreading like wildfire through conservative circles, turning the Duchess into a cautionary tale and a political punching bag. Mailman's comments were brutal and entirely unprovoked. She was discussing the broader culture of grievance and victimhood that universities and progressive movements have been perpetuating, and out of nowhere she dropped Meghan's name as the ultimate example. She described it as a glorification of victimhood where the greatest status you can achieve is being oppressed, even if you have to manufacture the oppression yourself. According to Mailman, Meghan Markle represents everything wrong with modern woke culture. A woman who lived one of the most privileged lives imaginable yet somehow convinced herself and others that she's a victim. The concept of Meghan Markle syndrome is resonating deeply with political commentators who've been watching the Duchess's trajectory with increasing skepticism. They point to her incredibly privileged upbringing in California, her successful acting career, her fairy tale marriage into one of the world's most famous families, and then her decision to manufacture trauma and racism accusations to fuel her victimhood narrative. Royal insiders have long suspected that Meghan invented or exaggerated discrimination claims to gain sympathy and leverage, and now those suspicions are being validated in the political arena. What makes Mailman's comments so cutting is that she's positioning Meghan as a symbol of a much larger cultural problem. She's not just criticizing one person, she's diagnosing an entire generation that's been taught to seek victimhood as a path to power and status. From university students demanding grief counseling after election results they didn't like, to celebrities claiming oppression while living in mansions, Mailman argues that Meghan Markle is the poster child for this toxic mindset. And the phrase Meghan Markle syndrome is catching on because it perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of people with extraordinary privilege cosplaying as victims. Palace sources claim Meghan is absolutely rattled by this political turn. She's used to fighting tabloids and royal commentators, but having a prominent Trump administration official use her name as shorthand for everything wrong with progressive victim culture is a different level of public humiliation. Conservative media outlets are running with the story, amplifying the phrase, turning Meghan into a punchline in political debates. Royal watchers speculate that this could have long-term consequences for Meghan's brand, especially in America, where political polarization means alienating half the country. The irony is almost too perfect. Meghan spent years cultivating an image as a champion of social justice and progressive causes, and now the political right has weaponized her name to attack those very movements. She's become the example of what not to be, a cautionary tale about manufactured trauma, and there's no PR strategy that can undo that kind of damage. Now here's where the Stassi situation reveals an even darker layer of Meghan's character. Royal commentators believe they've figured out exactly why Meghan ghosted her most loyal fan, and it has everything to do with cancel culture and Meghan's pathological need to protect her image at all costs. Stassi Schroeder was caught up in a 2020 scandal during the height of the social justice reckoning. She faced accusations and backlash that got her temporarily canceled from her reality show. Nothing on the scale of what Meghan herself has faced, but enough to make Stassi radioactive in certain progressive circles. Insiders whisper that Meghan refuses to publicly associate with anyone who's been touched by scandal, no matter how minor or how long ago. She's terrified of guilt by association, paranoid that aligning herself with controversial figures will damage her carefully curated image as a social justice warrior and champion of progressive causes. So despite years of unwavering loyalty, despite Stassi defending her when the entire world was attacking, Meghan made a cold, calculated decision to cut her loose. The woman was no longer useful. In fact, she'd become a potential liability. The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Meghan Markle herself has been cancelled on a scale that dwarfs anything Stassi experienced. She's been accused of lying about racism in the royal family, smearing Kate Middleton with false bullying allegations, weaponizing mental health claims for sympathy, and manipulating the media to destroy her husband's relationships with his own family. Royal commentators, Hollywood insiders, and now political figures are using her name as a cautionary tale about manufactured victimhood and toxic behavior. Yet somehow, in Meghan's twisted worldview, she's the one who can't afford to be seen with anyone controversial. Royal watchers point to a disturbing pattern. Meghan has a history of discarding people the moment they become inconvenient or potentially damaging to her brand. She famously cut off her own father after his staged paparazzi photos, despite him allegedly helping fund her education and early career. She distanced herself from longtime friends who didn't fall in line with her narrative. She allegedly drove a wedge between Harry and his closest confidants. And now she's ghosting fans who defended her through everything but had the audacity to face their own controversies. What makes this even more twisted is that Meghan simultaneously courts people who actively criticize her. She sends PR boxes to podcasters who question her motives but ignores supporters who faced cancel culture backlash. Industry insiders suggest this reveals a deeply manipulative personality, someone who only values relationships based on strategic leverage and control. Genuine loyalty means nothing. Only usefulness matters, and the moment you become a potential liability or lose your strategic value, you're discarded without a second thought. Stassi is finally seeing what so many others discovered too late. Meghan Markle doesn't have friends or supporters. She has tools and assets, and when those assets depreciate in value or become inconvenient, they get thrown away like yesterday's trash. The realization is devastating, but it's also liberating. Stassi is done being used, and she's making sure the entire world knows exactly who Meghan really is. While the Stassi drama was exploding across social media and the political world was coining Meghan Markle syndrome, the Duchess decided this was the perfect moment to push her failing lifestyle brand with some truly bizarre social media behavior. Royal watchers are calling it tone-deaf at best and desperately unhinged at worst. Meghan posted a photograph featuring her illegible calligraphy with a cryptic message about birds and bees that left followers confused, annoyed, and questioning her mental state. Critics immediately tore into the post, calling it a perfect window into her soul, a swirling mess of vanity and pretension, masquerading as elegance. The calligraphy itself has become a source of mockery across royal commentary circles. One observer described it as handwriting that reaches for the heavens like it's auditioning for a royal decree, with needless flourishes and exaggerated loops that scream "look at me" rather than conveying actual words. The Royal News Network pointed out that if Meghan is going to continue trying to make cursive a thing for her brand, she should probably make it legible to a generation that wasn't taught cursive, but legibility clearly isn't the point. This is about performance, about projecting an elevated status that exists only in Meghan's fantasy world. Royal insiders say the calligraphy obsession reveals something deeply troubling about Meghan's psychology. She's always seen herself as existing on a higher plane than everyone else, living in a world where she's sophisticated, cultured, and refined beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. The calligraphy is the handwriting equivalent of wearing a tiara to the grocery store, all show and no substance, revealing a personality more concerned with performative sophistication than genuine communication. No sane person writes like this in everyday life. But Meghan isn't operating in reality anymore. The post referenced a 1965 song, The Birds and the Bees, with the caption completing the phrase, "and a little thing called love." Royal commentators are baffled about what this is supposed to mean or promote. Is she selling something? Is this a metaphor? Is she just posting random nostalgic references to seem relatable? Nobody knows, and that's exactly the problem. Her brand strategy is as illegible as her handwriting, a confused mess of vague concepts and performative elegance that connects with absolutely nobody. But here's what makes this truly desperate. Meghan posted this calligraphy nonsense during one of the worst news cycles she's faced in months. Stassi just publicly destroyed her. A Trump aide just turned her name into a political diagnosis. Her reconciliation efforts with the royal family have collapsed spectacularly. And her response is to post indecipherable cursive about birds and bees? Industry insiders say it reveals someone completely detached from reality. Someone who genuinely believes her lifestyle brand can succeed despite universal mockery and a total lack of consumer interest. Royal sources confirm what everyone already knows. The brand is dead as a dodo. No amount of pretentious calligraphy or nostalgic song references will change that. But Meghan keeps pushing, keeps performing, keeps pretending she's building an empire when the entire world is watching her fail in real time. And the illegible handwriting is the perfect metaphor for everything Meghan Markle represents. Impossible to read, impossible to understand, and ultimately meaningless. The desperation didn't stop with illegible calligraphy. Meghan also decided to showcase her Montecito living room in what royal commentators are calling a transparent and frankly pathetic attempt to hawk her dead-on-arrival product line. The timing couldn't be worse. Her husband is experiencing some of the lowest moments of his life, watching his relationship with his father and brother disintegrate in real time, and Meghan's response is to use that pain as a marketing opportunity. Industry insiders say it reveals everything you need to know about who she really is. The living room photo was clearly staged to look casual and aspirational, the kind of content that lifestyle influencers post to sell a dream. But royal watchers immediately saw through it. This wasn't about sharing her life authentically. This was about monetizing Harry's family trauma, using the flood of negative headlines to push products that nobody wants to buy. The strategy is as cynical as it gets, and commentators are calling her out for it. You don't exploit your husband's pain to sell overpriced lifestyle goods unless you're completely devoid of empathy or moral boundaries. Palace sources confirm that the brand has been a catastrophic failure from the beginning. Despite the royal connection, despite the name recognition, despite the media attention, consumers simply aren't interested. The products feel disconnected from reality, aspirational content for a demographic that doesn't exist. Who exactly is the target audience for Meghan Markle's lifestyle empire? Not the working class she claims to champion, not the progressive activists she tries to align with, not even the wealthy elites who see through her performative authenticity. The brand exists in a vacuum, supported by nobody except Meghan's own delusion. Royal commentators have been saying for months that the lifestyle venture was doomed because Meghan fundamentally misunderstands what people want from her. They don't want calligraphy and curated living room photos. They don't want vague aspirational content about birds and bees. If anything, people are hate watching at this point, tuning in to see the next disaster rather than genuinely engaging with her content. And Meghan seems completely oblivious to this reality, posting as if she's building a thriving empire when the entire world is watching her spiral. What makes this even more disturbing is that Meghan is willing to use the most painful moments in Harry's life as content opportunities. His fractured relationship with King Charles, the public humiliation of failed reconciliation attempts, the ongoing feud with Prince William, none of it is off limits if it can generate attention for her brand. Royal insiders describe it as exploitative, manipulative, and deeply troubling. But Meghan keeps pushing forward, keep posting, keep performing, completely disconnected from the fact that nobody is buying what she's selling. The brand is dead, but she refuses to accept it. Behind all the public drama with Stassi and the political attacks, there's an even darker story unfolding inside the Sussex household. Palace sources are revealing explosive details about how Meghan allegedly sabotaged Harry's reconciliation with King Charles, and the picture they're painting is absolutely chilling. According to insiders, Harry's meeting with his father earlier this year could have been a turning point, a chance to rebuild bridges and repair years of damage. Instead, Meghan allegedly orchestrated a PR disaster that destroyed any hope of peace and left Charles more guarded than ever. Here's what reportedly happened. Harry met with King Charles in what was described by palace insiders as a cold, formal meeting. Charles was nervous, protective of what he said, terrified that anything personal would be leaked to the media. And he had good reason to be terrified, because immediately after the meeting, a suspiciously detailed story appeared in US Weekly magazine, painting a completely different picture. The article claimed the reunion was emotional, tearful, filled with hugs and reconciliation. It was pure Hollywood fantasy, and royal commentators immediately knew where it came from. US Weekly has become Meghan's go-to outlet for planting stories. The magazine's former editor at People magazine lost his job and landed at US Weekly, where he allegedly brought his relationship with the Sussexes with him. Now Meghan has two major supermarket tabloids competing for her scoops, and she's playing them against each other. When that US Weekly story dropped with its fabricated emotional reunion narrative, palace sources knew exactly who was behind it. The leak had Meghan's fingerprints all over it. But Harry couldn't leave well enough alone. Instead of letting the competing narratives balance each other out, he released a bombshell statement on Saturday night that blamed palace staff, the men in gray suits, for briefing against him. He went down a dark conspiracy path, suggesting the royal family might want him dead, the same paranoid thinking that's characterized so much of his recent behavior. And according to royal insiders, Meghan was right there with him, co-drafting the statement, stoking his paranoia, encouraging him to lash out. The damage was immediate and catastrophic. King Charles felt betrayed all over again. Prince William was reportedly furious, and any progress that might have been made in that initial meeting evaporated instantly. Palace sources say Charles is now more guarded than ever, convinced that anything he says to Harry will be twisted, leaked, and weaponized. The reconciliation is dead, and insiders are pointing the finger directly at Meghan. They believe she deliberately sabotaged the peace talks because reconciliation threatens everything she's built. Her entire narrative, her victimhood brand, her control over Harry, all of it collapses if Harry repairs his relationship with the royals. Royal insiders are going even further with their speculation, and what they're suggesting is absolutely explosive. Multiple sources close to the palace believe Meghan is deliberately and systematically destroying Harry's family relationships because reconciliation would be catastrophic for her. Think about it. Her entire brand, her entire public identity, is built on being the victim of a racist, cold, uncaring royal institution. If Harry reconciles with his family, if the world sees him laughing with William or embracing Charles, the entire victimhood narrative collapses instantly. She loses her leverage, her sympathy, her excuse for every failed venture and public misstep. Palace commentators point to a disturbing pattern of behavior. Every time Harry gets close to making peace with his family, something mysteriously derails it. A leaked story appears. An inflammatory statement gets released. Old wounds get reopened with perfectly timed revelations. And Meghan is always right there in the background, whispering in Harry's ear, drafting statements, feeding paranoia. One royal source described it as sadistic, watching someone deliberately sabotage their spouse's most important relationships for personal gain. Another called it psychological warfare, a calculated campaign to isolate Harry from everyone who might pull him away from her influence. The most chilling part is that Harry seems completely blind to what's happening. Royal insiders say he genuinely believes he's fighting for justice, standing up to institutional corruption, protecting his wife from the same forces that allegedly killed his mother. But behind closed doors, sources claim Meghan is the puppet master pulling every string, manipulating his trauma, exploiting his grief, turning his pain into weapons against his own family. And Harry is too deep in the fog to see it. One commentator described him as psychologically trapped, unable to recognize that the person he's defending is the same person destroying him. Royal watchers say the toll on Harry's mental health must be staggering. He's estranged from his father, his brother, his extended family. He's isolated in California with no real friends or support system beyond Meghan's circle. He's watching his reputation crumble, his credibility evaporate, his legacy as a beloved prince turn into a cautionary tale about manipulation and poor judgment. And through it all, Meghan is right there, the only constant in his life, reinforcing the narrative that everyone else is the enemy. It's classic isolation tactics, and insiders say it's working perfectly. The saddest part is that even people who've lost sympathy for Harry recognize he's being controlled. They see a man who desperately wants to repair his family relationships, but keeps getting sabotaged by the woman sharing his bed. Royal sources describe it as tragic, watching someone dig their own grave while the person they love hands them the shovel. And Meghan shows no signs of loosening her grip. The walls are closing in from every direction, and Meghan Markle is running out of allies fast. Stassi Schroeder's very public defection isn't just celebrity drama, it's a signal that even the most devoted fans have reached their breaking point. When your #1 supporter, the person who literally toured the country with your face on stage every night, publicly unfollows you and declares herself a toxic hater, that's not a PR hiccup. That's a full-blown crisis, and industry insiders say more defections are coming. The influencers, the defenders, the people who stuck their necks out when everyone else was attacking, they're all watching and wondering if they're next to get discarded. The political pile-on is even more devastating because it has staying power. May Mailman didn't just criticize Meghan. She turned her into a diagnosis, a shorthand for an entire cultural problem. Meghan Markle syndrome is spreading through conservative media like wildfire, appearing in political debates, opinion columns, and social media discussions about victimhood culture. That kind of branding is permanent. Decades from now, people will reference Meghan Markle syndrome without even remembering the specific scandals. She's become a cautionary tale, a punchline, a symbol of everything people hate about manufactured victimhood. And there's no PR strategy that can undo that level of cultural damage. Meanwhile, her lifestyle brand remains dead on arrival despite increasingly desperate attempts to generate interest. The calligraphy posts get mocked. The living room photos get ignored. The product launches generate headlines only because people love watching the failure unfold in real time. Royal commentators say the brand was doomed from the start because Meghan fundamentally misunderstood her own appeal. People were interested in her when she was a glamorous princess married to a beloved prince. They're not interested in aspirational lifestyle content from a woman universally seen as manipulative, dishonest, and self-absorbed. Royal sources say Meghan's response behind closed doors has been volcanic. She reportedly cannot comprehend why her strategies are backfiring so spectacularly. She thought courting critics while ignoring fans would help control the narrative. Instead, it exposed her as calculating and ungrateful. She thought manufacturing victimhood would generate sympathy. Instead, it made her a political punching bag. She thought sabotaging Harry's reconciliation would protect her brand. Instead, it's destroying whatever credibility she had left. Every move she makes digs the hole deeper, and insiders say she's panicking. The question now is how much further she can fall before something breaks completely. Will more celebrities follow Stassi's lead and publicly abandon her? Will political figures continue weaponizing her name? Will Harry finally wake up and see what everyone else sees? Royal watchers are watching closely because the collapse feels inevitable. Meghan Markle built her empire on lies, manipulation, and manufactured trauma. And now, as the truth comes out piece by piece, that empire is crumbling. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for Meghan, or does she have one more trick up her sleeve? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stay tuned because the next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.